Caleb Brooks with Central Alabama Voice, and I'm here joined by Sheriff Bill Franklin, the Sheriff of Elmore County here. And for you, you've been here for a very long time, 30 years now on the job, and a lot of things have definitely gone on. A lot of things have changed in the last 30 years for sure. And I kind of want to first off just kind of get a background of yourself a little bit, and kind of just tell me, where did your interest for becoming a police officer and getting into law enforcement really come from? And when you first got into it, was working your way up to being a sheriff really where you wanted to be, or is that something that kind of developed over time?
I'll be honest with you. I had a granddad, a mother, father, all that was in law enforcement. Around our supper table at night, that's pretty much what was talked about. A lot of what should you do stories, things like that, what had happened. I think my granddad being the sheriff and my dad being a state investigator and mother working with the sheriff's office for 16 years, I just naturally, I think from the time I was in grade school, I knew what I wanted to do when I got older, and finally came to fruition there about 1991. Been blessed to be here. Hope to be here for quite a few more years if everything goes all right. I think I'm blessed with good health, and I like to get up in the morning and come to work. People are what actually make the department. Got good people, got great people, and that really, I think anybody that's in the position of leadership understands that if you've got good people, that's a big part of anybody's success with them trying to run a business. But I will say that this is not for everybody, and we tell everybody that comes through here, about 3/4 of our guys and girls come through the jail division, the corrections, and we find out a lot about those people in the first couple of years that they're here. And through getting 3/4 of the people that wind up coming to the patrol division, we can find out a lot about those people. They in turn find out if this is something really they want to do. It's not for everybody, I'll be honest with you. We've had people, it's sort of funny, we've had people that we've hired that went down in the jail, and in 2 hours they'll come back up here and they'll say, hey, look, Mr. Franklin, I've talked to the warden down there, and this is just not for me. And it's like a jungle. And I can understand that with a lot of people that come to jail, not everybody that comes to jail is a bad person. There's a reason they're coming down here, but not everybody that comes to jail is a bad guy. And we readily recognize that. But Elmore County has really changed. I can tell you that, I make a concerted effort that first day that I came to work with the sheriff's office back in January of '91. I made a few calls just to see what our population was then. And our population back in January of '91 was 49,210. I think you're going to find out in this next census that we've got, we're probably bumping 90,000. So that has really been a game changer for us. Most of your counties in Alabama, including Montgomery, Montgomery's basically got their population is sort of slowly peppered up. Ours has skyrocketed. And there's 2 or 3 counties in Alabama that's been like that, and we're one of those 2 or 3 counties. I commend the commission for trying to get ahead of the train there and trying to posture us to where, we would be a prosperous county and not a poor county that's struggling with a lot of debt and things like that. So they've done an excellent job like that. But we've grown in leaps and bounds. I think the first day we took office, there were about 13 deputies. Now, 30 years later, we're 49 deputies.
Wow.
And including myself, and it has really helped. We have a lot more, I guess you could say, we're more high-tech oriented. We have IT people here that work at the department now, and if you don't keep up with the times and some of the older people, it's a little different. These young kids that come along now, they're really more IT and high-tech oriented than some of the older people. So that has really helped also. But
no, I look at your desk over here and you got 2 nice computer monitors sitting on there, and obviously 30 years ago you didn't have that. And so, You talk about technology. How much has technology
Oh,
changed the
gosh.
game for law enforcement and what you guys are able to do with finding people and things like that?
Hey, listen, we try to put, I know Miss Bracknell, our chief assistant's over there on the other side of the room. She does a good job as far as pooling our monies in the different accounts that we've got. And for instance, if we wanted something that's more tech-oriented, that's high-tech, that'll help our narcotics division, our warrants division, the civil division, or things like that, patrol division, investigators, we'll pool those monies and so we can purchase something that we need. These data banks that we have access to now. And I won't get into the intricacies of a lot of times how we're able to locate people. And but there is technology out there. There wasn't anything like that 20, 30 years ago, and it's changing pretty much every year now to where you can get a lot more bells and whistles that you can purchase that'll help you solve crime. And we're trying to spend most of our monies along the lines of, you know, helping us help the public so we can get some of the bad guys off the street. Asset forfeiture laws have really changed. I can tell you that we're one of the few sheriff's offices in the state. I've been to several of them, but I don't know of that many that actually have your jail, your sheriff's office, your E911 division, your emergency management agency, your drug task force, and your firearms facility, all within about 200 yards of each other. The terrain and the way this is constructed up here, we just lucked out with our firearms facility and things like that. The workout room that we've got, the firearms building that was purchased, another drug task force building that was purchased by the, well, that building was purchased with the help of the commission. But these other items that I was talking about was purchased with asset forfeiture monies, where you know, we make drug seizures or take the properties or inventory of other people that sell dope to kids or around the school, or whatever methods that we use to go through the United States District Attorney's Office to try to seize particular items. They've really actually watered down a lot of those asset forfeiture laws over the years. It seems like the courts are getting more and more liberal, leaning to the I would say the side of the defendant and making it tougher on law enforcement. But that's just the nature of what we're having to deal with this day and area.
Yeah, you know, and you kind of brought up, you know, some of the stuff that y'all been able to put in here, and then you look around this area, you know, I mean, Millbrook, Wetumpka, these places that are really trying to put back into downtown and building up those places. And how has this area changed in your time being here, and how has that also changed the way that y'all have had to operate and send people out to certain areas and do certain things?
Well, I'll tell you what's really helped, and that's the, you know, your law enforcement in Wetumpka, Tallahassee, Millbrook, Eclectic, Casada. Good guys run those departments, and we get along with those guys. And it really helps, and people, we never take that for granted, that the relationships that we have are good. Their guys get along with our guys and vice versa, and that really helps as far as having a good, harmonious, I guess you could say, law enforcement relationship. We all share the same jail, of course, and I think that's a plus for them. They don't want the liability of probably running their own jail, but that for our county, I think that what we are implementing and what we utilize right now, I think is a plus and a win-win situation for our citizens as a whole.
You know, we kind of talked about with technology and everything, and for you on your job, you know, with technology changing the way that it is that what kind of, I guess, keeps you young in the job and kind of keeps you, you know, I guess, going every day, is that you are having to kind of learn something new all the time, and then the job is changing, you know, with every single year.
Listen, my chief deputy every day spends a little time with me as far as some of this IT stuff. Major Amerson down there with the task force, we're always talking. My chief investigator back there. It's something that, and we've got to keep these guys educated as to what's out there. The social media, that's something we hadn't touched on, but that has really changed the game. And that's something I was talking about the technology, some things that we utilize trying to find people. They don't realize it, but you know, a lot of people are located through, you know, them utilizing, you know, Facebook and some type of social media, and that's just one of the avenues that we use to a lot of times try to make contact with people.
Do you ever watch the show Blue Bloods that comes on TV? Ever seen that show?
No, I'm more of the Chicago PD.
Yeah.
I watch that.
Well, I was watching that show the other night, though, and one of the things that they kind of talked about, the commissioner was talking to one of his sons on there and kind of said, you know, I enjoy what I do, but I miss being a street cop sometimes. Right. I miss the do you miss that sometimes, being out there in the field all the time?
Now, I'm going to tell you, if I could give one person probably the most important info he would need to utilize and say, hey, this is what it's all about. The people in our county, the one thing that they want, and it's never really talked about, is accessibility. I had a smart guy tell me that one time, and I really didn't buy into it and didn't think a lot about it, but it's true. My cell phone, for instance, at night, my cell phone rings. In the evening, my cell phone rings. On the weekends, my cell phone rings. And I don't mind, because a lot of times, through them calling me directly, you know, I can help them right then, and I already know about what's going on by the time it funnels down to patrol or investigations, and we can talk about it and try to get them some help. But being accessible to the public, I think Leela will tell you, Chief will tell you, or Cap Mogden up there, all those guys will tell you, hey, I preach that, hey, we got to help. We're public servants. That's where it begins, and that's where it ends. We're public servants, and you got to help people. And you know, not everybody's the same. Not everybody thinks the same. Everybody's different. Every one of them's got a problem, but their problems are different. Their problems are unique, and our job is to try to help those people.
You know, one of the tough things to me about being a you know, law enforcer or anything is got to be that there's mixed just acceptance from people. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you got some people that are really thankful for what you do and that, you know, let you know that. And then you got some people that don't even want to speak to you and don't even want to talk to you. So
that's right. You're exactly right.
How is that kind of dealing with that out, you know, when you're out in the public and stuff?
That too has been a game changer. Sadly, I think a lot of that response is taught and pretty much channeled through households. There will always be people that hate law enforcement. I think our guys, through us talking to them, they readily recognize that. The people that were interested in law enforcement in the last couple of years, when we talked to them, I think with the political climate and the way it is, they've actually decided they would steer another way. They don't want to pursue that because of the liability exposure and how they'll be perceived by their friends and things like that. That's just that's something else that we're going to have to deal with that's real. What's sad is you can really tell when we go to the schools, or especially your younger grades, it's hard for a child to mask his feelings. And you can tell those that you're perceived as a bad guy, and it's pretty much that hatred is taught in the household. You still, thank God, we've got that element of people out there that love law enforcement, and you know, will do anything in the world and understand what we're about and what we're trying to do. And then I would say most of mainstream America is in the middle. They just they're going to want to respond to how they're treated in any given situation in the moment, and our people readily recognize that, and that's the way it should be. But things have changed. They really have. We hadn't talked about coronavirus, but you know, it seems like everybody we talk to now that, you know, we have to pick up, and they all have coronavirus, and they don't want to come to jail. Of course, we have to go through the pains of trying to find out, hey, where did you, you know, when did you get this? Who told you that you were positive? Things like that. So most of the time, that's been a fable that has been relayed to us. But anyway, that's the real world, what we're having to deal with. But you're exactly right. The persona of how people perceive law enforcement, man, has really changed. It really has.
You know, and I was telling you that my everyday job is I go around and talk to, high school athletes, coaches, and one of the things that's hurting them right now is people aren't wanting to get into officiating because of the way that fans are to them and all that. Are you seeing that right now with law enforcement, with people just not wanting to get into it as much as they maybe used to because of how much you're under, scrutiny all the time?
The older guys, the middle-aged guys understand it. They've been here long enough to where they get it. These young kids that are coming in, that's getting in law enforcement, hey, let's just call it for what it is. They've never seen the other side. They've never seen the goodness, what can happen, what we can do, how you solve crime, how you talk to people and things like that. And, they just hear all the badness. They watch TV, and they just, they don't want to be a subject of somebody that's going to get shot, somebody that's going to get beat. And then when they are, they're still looked at as the bad guy instead of them possibly being a victim. But we never want to play the victim card up here. We don't have that. We're not going to have that attitude. We're going to help people, and we know that there's people out there that are pretty much left-handed that think a different way. But hey, we got to help those people too. And it was funny. We had a kid that got shot not too long ago. And on his Facebook and everything, he was hate the police and, some pretty derogatory 4-letter words around, what law enforcement is all about. But then when he got shot, we're the first people that he calls. I actually had a conversation with him. Said, hey, you do understand that we know how you feel about law enforcement. You're making it known, but, you certainly don't have any problem calling us when you got shot.
Yeah.
So, I just don't, you're going to have that. Young people that get in law enforcement, it's a head shaker like, what in the world, how can that be? Mm-hmm. But there's people that always think that way, and then they'll flip when, the rubber meets the road, so to speak. But I don't, very interesting, the next 3 or 4 years ought to be very interesting as to how this comports to the way mainstream America feels about law enforcement and how law enforcement is going to be able to respond to that through our laws. And I know there's a lot of defund the police ideology out there and things like that. I know the problems they have in Seattle and Portland. And I'm going to tell you, I just thank God we live in Elmore County. Love Elmore County. A lot of people that's come to Elmore County. Good place to live, good place for, I think, we've got law and order, we've got good school system, and there's a lot of people coming to Elmore County, and they're fleeing some of these other places to come to Elmore County.
No, they are. I mean, you can tell with this area
right.
and the way that it's blowing up that people are coming
That's right.
here. And one of the things I wanted to kind of ask you about is, 2 things. Number one, how do we, you talked about defund police and all that everybody's kind of pushing for, but how do we kind of get better at what we're doing as police officers and stuff and make it where we're not making some of the mistakes that we make? And then also, how do we make it where, the communities and people start rallying around our law enforcement again and start having that great relationship that we want to have between both sides?
You're going to have to stop doing what you're doing and communicate with people. And it's going to have to be a one-on-one discussion like this. Sadly, I'll tell you a true story. My first 4 years here, first term in office, I spent an inordinate amount of time, and I said, you know what, I'm going to educate a lot of the people in the county as to what we do and what we're about, what we're trying to get done. And sadly, you've got a certain segment of the population out here that's like a sponge, and they want to learn, and they're interested in what you're trying to do. And then you've got another segment of society out here in the county that they don't want to be educated about that. They just don't want to, and you can't force that upon people. You can offer your services, and you can tell them, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We had 26 communities in Elmore County, and back during that era, I got 9 of the 26 communities started with neighborhood crime watches and things like that. And it went over real good in those 9, but you've got some that probably are not as receptive. And like I said, they don't care about you educating them as to what we can provide and what we want to do. People would think, are you kidding me? No, I'm very serious. Some people, like I said, want to be educated, and some don't care to be educated. But you've got to sit down and you've got to talk with people. the people that come to jail. We've got on a daily average down here about 242 inmates. And people don't realize it, but most of those people that come through here that are on property crimes, crimes against persons, and things like that, there's probably a good 5 or 10 every day that I'm trying to sit down and talk to learn something. Why are they doing it like this? How did you go in the house? Why did you select that house? Learn their trade and what they're trying to do. Now, a lot of people are not going to talk to you, but we're only going to get better at this and make our county safer if somebody sits down, takes the time to try to figure out, hey, why are we doing this? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Some of the guys and girls up here know me. I'm one of those people that, you know, your closet's got to be structured a certain way, and, you know, all your socks got to be a certain way. So I've sort of a little meticulous minded in that area. Some people call it OCD. Some people, you know, would say that's a disorder. Well, I can tell you that I've just got to handle that a specific way, and I don't like going home and there's 1,000 things laid on your plate that are undone. Some of the people will tell you that, you know, I try to infuse that line of thinking into their way of life, and, you know, hey, I don't like to stack gorillas, you know, just over here in the corner.
Yeah.
And then we get up the next morning, we got 1,000 things that we got to take off the shelf and, you know, try to do. We got to do it that day. And that means at night, there's got to be something that's going to have to be done.
Yeah.
Like I said, this job isn't for everybody, but I feel like I really truly feel like the county reaped a benefit from your sheriff thinking like that. And I try to, you know, surround myself with a lot of people that care. If you don't care up here, you're not going to make it. I'm just going to be honest with you. Not going to apologize for that. First and foremost, I need somebody that's honest, but I need somebody that cares. And if you care, you know, what goes into that recipe of what all comes out of that is only good, and that's going to help your county. But, you know, probably said a little bit more than I needed to there, but that's a little bit about how we think.
What would be your advice to a young kid right now that, you know, maybe would come up to you and say, you know, hey, I'm thinking about getting into law enforcement, you know, but what are some of the positives, what are some of the negatives, and what should be my expectations?
Listen, that is an excellent question. Let me tell you something. When we do go out and we talk to people, first and foremost, they need to be able to give themselves a chance to be able to be a fireman, a lawyer, a dentist, a teacher, a law enforcement officer. And what I mean by that is they don't need to go out here and be selling dope or get caught with dope, or, you know, rape, rob, steal. Those kind of criminal histories in your jacket are going to prohibit you from one day of being able to do what you want to do, like what you do, what I do. That's very real to a kid. By the 6th grade, we need to instill that in these kids when they're 12. We don't need to wait till they're 16, 17. But, you know, being a juvenile is one thing, but you're not forever a juvenile. Sooner or later, you're going to be considered an adult, generally during your time in high school. And you can really ruin your future while you're in high school. We've seen an uptick in identity theft. We've seen an uptick in these pornography laws with this social media and people taking pictures of girls and guys and sending it to other people. Listen, I try to tell all these kids, every 16-year-old girl has got a daddy. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to see their 16-year-old girl, you know, that's portrayed in a you know, a demeaning manner. And a lot of times they want to pursue that criminally. And that will ruin you quickly. It really will. But that's just something that, you know, is real. But first and foremost, we try to tell these people, hey, give yourself a chance and stay out of trouble. Don't have a criminal history by the time you graduate high school. Because if you do, it's going to be real tough. You know, a lot of these kids don't understand that. They really don't. we get this all the time. They come in here and they're 25, 27 years old and they want to work in the jail, or they want to, one day aspire to be an investigator or, a deputy sheriff, and they're great people on that day and probably the last year or two. But the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission have bylaws that they comply with, and if you robbed a bank when you was 18, or you went out here and sold dope when you was 18, you're not going, it's just not going, it's going to be tough. It's probably not going to happen. And we get this all the time. Well, that was back when that was 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yes, that will follow you the rest of your life. That's sad, but that's the way it is. But just staying out of trouble. That old adage my mother and daddy told me, and I've tried to tell my kids, you pretty much are who you hang around.
Yeah.
And if you hang around trash, there's a good chance you're gonna get some on you. But you need to. It costs just as much money and just as much time to hang around good people, do the right thing, be a leader. If they think of you as a nerd because you don't want to do this or do that, hey man, there's nothing wrong with being a nerd. I know they say, well, peer pressure. Well, listen to me. I probably had a little bit of that growing up, but I think I'm well to the advantage of just having to steer clear of some of that stuff. And I'm sure other people got a mirror image of how I grew up, and they can say the same story.
Yeah. What are some of the stuff that you have to do on a daily basis that maybe people don't know about that is part of being a sheriff and part of what you have to do up here every day?
Well, just like I said, when we started, we had 13 guys that were patrol deputies, and now we got 49. I think the one thing people probably don't know is that, like I said earlier, I go down there and I spend time talking to the inmates, especially those that have come in that has committed a crime against a person, crime against property, stealing, trying to find out, like I said, how they steal, why they steal, why'd you pick that house. We've had people that come in here that say, hey, I take hot dog weenies with me when I go, because if there's a dog, I'll feed the dog, things like that. It's just why people do what they do is very interesting if you'll take the time to listen to them. Every single person down there, those 242 people, if I talk to 5 or 10 a day, they've got a different story and they've got different problems. And why they do something, a lot of times it may all run together in a way, but each one of them is different. We've got the people down there in the jail, and I'm gonna be honest with you, at 9 o'clock at night, if there's no chaos going on down there in the jail, something's missing in their life because they're coming from a dysfunctional family. And if there's no chaos by 9 o'clock at night, they're like, man, what the hell's going on? I mean, something's missing. You can tell, and they're just like, something's wrong. And it's sad, but that is the real world. This dope has really changed. You're talking about the high tech and what we do. Well, what we've learned is every few years there are more designer drugs, these synthetic drugs that come out, and what these kids are putting in their body. People are migrating from powder and crack cocaine and things like that to pills. When I go to school, I tell these kids they're becoming a generation of pill takers versus the hard dope that people used to take. Now, with that said, heroin's back on the scene. And the purity level of this heroin is killing people. And people don't understand that. And a lot of times I think they think, well, law enforcement's just trying to scare us. No, law enforcement is trying to keep you alive and educate you and tell you, hey, purity level on that heroin is not like it was in the 60s and the 70s, where it was like 4% or 5%. Now the purity level's up in the 80 and 90 range, and people can't sustain that and they're dying. But we're very blessed that I've got a drug task force with a few narcotic agents that, work with the feds and work with the state, and they really help springboard our efforts as far as what we're trying to do, as far as, keep that out of our county. can't put a wall up around your county.
Yeah.
We recognize that, and we have to be able to make sure that we've got people that, you know, are trained and readily work alongside the state and the feds to where we can go anywhere we want to. We've gone to Michigan before. I know one of the guys, you know, years ago was telling me, you know, the money trail and the drug trail and how it flows east, west, north, south. Very interesting. But those guys are very educated as to how all that works, and we're very blessed to have a good crew down there that does that.
You know, I mentioned, I mean, you've been doing this since 1991, and what is it that has kept you doing it? You know, you just talked about, you know, I want to keep doing it for more years. So what is it about the job that you love so much?
I don't know. You know, I'll tell you what, I have, right after I got out of high school, went to college, graduated from college, just before I started on with a police department over there in Lee County at Auburn, I was underneath the house and I was putting up pylons, helping to move houses, and I realized very quickly, I said, man, you get killed doing this kind of stuff. But I was waiting for my time to be selected to start at a law enforcement agency. And I'll be honest with you, on one aspect, when you're young, got out of college, I had a job that I was like, man, you know, you get up every morning, put your boots on, you're like, man, I don't know about this. But then after I started in law enforcement and I started that part of my life and career, I've never had a morning where, you know, I didn't get up and look forward to putting my britches on, putting my shoes on and coming to work. And I know a lot of people think, well, that's sort of cheesy, but it's the truth. I really enjoy helping people. And like I said, this is not for everybody. But if you don't have that feeling, you really need to go do something else. That's where these people wind up getting in trouble, or they have ulterior motives. My job, I feel like, is to find those people, weed those people out, because they're not helping us. And you know, thank God we don't have many people like that. Very selective about who we get, who we bring down here. And like I said, working in the jail for a couple of years, you can find out a whole lot about people, about how they're going to treat inmates, how they're going to treat people in the lobby and what they do. And you know, by the time they come to the road as a patrol deputy, you know, you've sort of filtered out the good from the bad, so to speak.
You know, and you see these people in this office all the time. I mean, this is who you're around, this is who you deal with every day.
Right.
Having good people up here that you enjoy being around, that has to help with you.
Listen,
you know, what you just talked about, waking up and looking forward to the job.
Let me tell you something. The people that work here, I am very blessed, and that's another reason I enjoy coming to work. The people that I work around, and we're all pulling the wagon the same way. That's why, you know, knock on wood, I've got good health and everything, and, you know, still get out there and feel like I can pull the train too. But we just, when you've got other people that had the same ideology about, you know, God, country, family, and what you're trying to do, it really, I mean, I can't say enough about that. The people up here are what make this department. It's not Bill Franklin. I'm just a small cog in the wheel, brother. But I'm glad to be a part of the whole. But everybody here, from the girls up front that greet the public, the guys that answer the calls, the investigators is trying to solve the crime up there. I was really, the people that really know me, I was more sports oriented, and I've always been that way. And all the analogies we have up here are sort of driven toward a sports venue. And for instance, the investigators back there, it's like a ball game. Hey, brother, you want to be an investigator, that's fine. You need to solve crime. If you can't solve crime, then I've got somebody that wants your job. Mm-hmm. And we'll put you back in patrol, but you're going to have to hunt. And if you do it, if you've got common sense and you've got some drive about you and you want to get things done, you know, it's just a matter of stopping, thinking, and applying time, and you got to care, got to be honest, and you can solve some crime. Some stuff will never be solved, but you know, for the most part, I'm very impressed with those people, because in all the Part 17 major crimes, such as your rape, robbery, murder, theft, motor vehicle theft, arson, things like that, they stay above the statewide average in solving crimes, each one of them, just above what the statewide average is. So I told them, hey, we're going to always stay above what the average is in the state. If you can't stay above that, you know, some people say, well, that's a hateful attitude. Well, I think that's what the people of Elmore County, one of the reasons they entrust me having this job is, hey, those people need to stay above the statewide average. If they don't, we got somebody that wants your job, and you can swap and go back to patrol. And like I said, some people say, well, that's sort of a mean attitude. No, that's just being a good coach, so to speak.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, look, if the right tackle ain't making a block, they're going to take him out of the game.
That's exactly right. And you can't be, you can't love to pull the trigger as far as replacing somebody, but you've got to be able to pull the trigger and know when to pull the trigger. And it's just, I don't know. Like I said, it's a job not for everybody, but I really enjoy it. I feel like that I've been fairly successful at it, but make no mistake about it, my success can be largely attributed to each and every person that works up here. There's about 130 people that work in the entire sheriff's office. You got about 24 over there, or 23 in dispatch. You know, you've got 19 split between narcotics and investigations and civil. You got 49 in the, you know, in the patrol division. You got 38 in the jail. So if you add all that up, it should be about 130.
When you think back on your time doing this, I mean, what do you feel like that you've learned about yourself the most in doing this, and where do you feel like that you've also improved the most over, you know, your time doing this?
Well, I'll tell you, probably they would tell you that I haven't achieved this, but I'm trying to be more and more patient. I've got to. I hear Leela over there; she's probably laughing, but you know, a lot of times I've got to have things done right then a certain way, and I don't understand why you can't do that. And you know, so I'm trying to learn more and more patience in that regard. But now with the public, it's altogether different. That's not your employee, whole different deal. So you've obviously got to have patience with them, because they don't. You've got to explain things to them. But I think it would be safe to say they've probably, a little bit of me is probably rubbed off on them, and a little bit of them has rubbed off on me. So we help each other.
Well, Sheriff, I really appreciate you taking time to sit down and talk with me. And look, congratulations on, you know, what you've been able to do so far in your career here, and you know, continuing to just getting to do this. And like you said, hopefully you just continue to do it for more and more years. And you know, I appreciate everything that you guys do as law enforcers, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of people, and you know, just saying thank you for all that you guys do.
Well, I really appreciate y'all taking the time to come down here and talk to me, and it's great to see some of the news outlets that are doing some coverage on some positive stories in law enforcement, because I know a lot of times people try to expound on the negativity, but I really appreciate you doing that.
Yes, sir.
You take care of yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.